Welcome to Educating the Human Potential, where we explore strategies to empower learners, educators, and parents through a Montessori lens.
My name is Biff Maier.
And I'm Nicole Coman. Today we have Garrard Conley, and he's the author of the acclaimed memoir, Boy Erased, which has been translated in over a dozen languages and is now a major motion picture featuring Nicole Kidman, Russell Crowe, Lucas Hedges. An incredible story that we're going to be able to talk about today. And now Garrard is also an author of a new book. It's a novel, correct? Called All the World Beside, which is coming out March 26th, and we're going to get to that. And finally, I want to note that Garrard is also an assistant professor of creative writing at Kennesaw State in Georgia.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here with you. I feel so lucky because I just think your story is fascinating. And do you mind just telling us a little bit about yourself, kind of your upbringing? You grew up in Arkansas, is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. I had on a sticker earlier on the stage that said Arkansas Queer.
Oh, did you really? Yeah. I feel like I would have never seen that sticker. I mean, that's amazing.
I was trying to represent. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm from Arkansas. Actually, the first town I grew up in was really small. It was like a group of 100 people. I mean, I'd call it a group because it wasn't really a town.
Sure.
And
did you have a traffic light? Ooh.
Yes, one traffic light.
One. Okay. Mm-hmm. I just want to paint the picture.
Yeah, it was the intersection.
Yeah.
It's like the one.
The only one.
And surprisingly, there were quite a few wrecks there.
Oh,
I don't know how.
Oh.
I think because there were it was like a farm road and people would be driving down it.
Just
quickly.
Not used to traffic lights.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah, they weren't anticipating it. Yeah.
I think it was a traffic light and not a four-way stop, but I can't be sure.
Yeah, that's
how weird it was.
There was a group of people in this town.
And they all congregated at one place, which was the Missionary Baptist Church in that town. And, potlucks, you name it, everything was there. Mm-hmm. And I mean, within that environment, I was talking about it today in one of my talks. There was definitely that danger of a single story, that we hear about from Chimamanda Adichie, right? You read about that, or she gave the TED talk about that idea, which is that if you only hear one story growing up, and there are no alternatives, that could be incredibly dangerous.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the environment that I was growing up in. And everything was pretty great until I was about 12 or 13 and started to realize I had an attraction to other boys my age. Mm-hmm. And I remember a real moment of awakening was I was in Sunday school and a man marched into the classroom and demanded that we all sign this petition that was against this LGBTQ parade that was taking place in Fayetteville, Arkansas. And they were like, it's filthy. You have to sign your name to this. And so here I am, like a 12 or 13-year-old kid, thinking like, well, I'm going to betray who I am if I sign this thing. But if I don't sign this thing, then they're going to all know what's going on.
Right. I'm going to out myself. Right?
So I signed it. And that was a big moment for me of sort of an awakening of, okay, I've got to keep everything secret. I have to be really smart.
Did you did you know what it meant to be gay at that time? Or did you just know that you were attracted to other males?
I mean, the internet was a very different place at the time.
Sure.
So when you typed in gay, half the time it went up to porn or something.
Yeah.
There was just no regulation in that way. So everything that I'd been taught was a very different world from what I grew up in. It didn't seem like there was a possibility for these two worlds to fit together. Mm-hmm. It was like the show Queer as Folk, which is pretty out there for a 13-year-old. And then of course the other side of that was really dark, which is the whole Matthew Shepard slaughtering, which the whole news world was exploding, and you couldn't deny the fact that it looked like a crucifixion in some ways, right?
And just so people, if they don't know, Matthew Shepard was a gay. How old was he?
I think he was a teen, maybe late teens.
Yeah, a teenager
early
who
20s.
Came out that he was gay, and he was killed.
Yeah,
and
so
murdered.
someone in a bar followed him or took him out and strung him up and killed him and left him for dead. So that was the specter that was haunting sort of American media at the time. And then, of course, right on the heels of that was George W. Bush, who was trying to make a marriage amendment that would make it impossible for gay men to marry. And so there was a very clear message, both within my community and outside of it, which is just don't.
Yeah.
Just don't
Yeah.
act on it, you
Right.
know?
Right. Keep it in.
Keep it all in. And yeah, that didn't go well.
Sure. Right. So, what I understand, so your parents, your dad was a minister. Was your mom involved in the church as well?
So he became a minister when I was 16. At that point, I learned that I needed to have a girlfriend. Things were questionable. People were starting to ask questions. So I thought, okay, well, she was in the church. We liked each other. Let's date.
Yeah.
And so I had a girlfriend, Chloe, at the time. And my dad was actually a car salesman. I know I could make a million jokes about that transition, right? So he was a car salesman who then transitioned to being a preacher.
Yeah.
And my mom and I, who were sitting in church one day, we didn't even know he was planning this at all, right? It wasn't planned. He called a calling from God. So he just goes up the aisle. He's shaking and crying. I've never seen my dad cry like once in my life. And the preacher declares like, oh, Herschel Conley is going to be a preacher now. Will Garrett and Martha, my mom and me, go up to the front of the sanctuary and accept everyone's like praise and everything. So we, took about 1 million hugs from people that we knew. And the whole time I was just thinking, oh no, like this is going to be even harder because there's going to be a lot more scrutiny. And I knew that when a preacher in that community at Missionary Baptist churches, which there's like a local Missionary Baptist Association in Arkansas, and I knew that they really scrutinize the preachers before they allow them in.
Yeah.
And so that involves scrutinizing the family quite a bit.
Right.
And my dad knew this.
Yeah, such a spotlight on your family now,
Yeah.
right?
And my mom, if you've ever seen my mom, she looks like Dolly Parton. She hates it when I say this, but she does. She wears like regularly, will just wear lace from top to bottom, pearls everywhere,
Oh, yeah.
big southern hair, platinum blonde.
Bigger the better.
Yeah. She's your amazing Southern belle sort of type,
Yeah.
And so she does not fit in as a preacher's wife.
Oh, I see.
And she used to go around being like, well, I don't know if I can do this because I can't be seen in a denim skirt.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to do that.
Right. I'm not going to sacrifice my fashion style for this
Right?
new role. Yeah.
I know. And so my mom and I did not fit into this very, very strict world. I mean, this is the type of world where my dad used to be a lot of fun before this. And we went to go see, I remember at the time, like, I think it was, I don't remember what year it was, but remember when Avatar first came out?
Yeah, sure.
Everyone went to go see it because of the 3D. And I was like, sure, let's go see it.
Yeah.
So we put on the 3D glasses, which cost like an insane amount of money at the time. And my dad hears one curse word.
Oh, boy.
And he's just like out of the theater. He just walks out of the theater. And my mom and I look at each other and we're like, well, we paid way too much for this.
I know.
Like, we're going to sit and watch the rest. So dad just like walked around in the shopping center outside.
Oh, my goodness.
We sat there, and that movie's long.
Yeah, that was a long movie. Yeah. Wow.
So that's the type of environment where, it was just suddenly like nothing is allowed that doesn't conform to this fundamentalist vision of America and Christianity.
Did you and your mom talk about that much at this point?
We were careful about it. It was like we knew that dad was the head of the household, quote unquote, and we're not going to upset him during this very tense time for him. But yeah, I mean, we weren't completely open because my mom, she suspected things about me, but I never said I was gay or anything. But mom and I had always been very close, and we could tell that we were both not exactly thrilled by the latest developments.
Sure. So tell me a little bit about so when you came out and how that happened.
So basically, I was outed, which no one should ever have to go through. It's terrible.
Yeah.
But
how old were you?
Well, fast forward, I was basically 18 when I was outed. So a better position than a 17 or 16-year-old from what I've learned about conversion therapy.
Sure.
But I had gone off to my first semester of college, and my roommate at the time had confessed to me that he had abused a child. And when he told me that, I immediately called multiple people and said, like, what should I do?
Yeah.
I talked to my local, is a Presbyterian private college. So I talked to the minister there and I said, like, what should I do? And that minister there told me to be quiet.
Really?
This is very, way before Me Too and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And she said that it would hurt the school and that if I didn't think he was going to do it again, that I shouldn't tell anyone. And I remember looking around her office at, all of these brilliant books like Thomas Aquinas, Aristotle, St. Augustine, everyone who's brilliant, and thinking, wow, how did we get here?
Right.
This is where we are.
Yeah.
But I was so scared. I can't believe I said St. Augustus. It's St. Augustine. Anyway.
Yeah, there we are.
I got there eventually. It's been a long day, y'all.
Listen, we feel you. You can say whatever you want to say. No one's judging.
I love St. Augustine anyway.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just remember being like, okay, well, I can't say anything. But I went ahead and called some of my friends' parents, and they had called him to be like, what is wrong with you? Why would you do this? And his retaliation for that was to call my parents and say I was living an openly gay lifestyle, which I wasn't.
Oh.
I had just confessed to him what I felt at different times.
Yeah.
But really what this did was it started a chain of events where conversion therapy was almost inevitable.
Yeah.
My mom came to pick me up. They were paying for my college at the time. And she said that we needed to talk to my dad and that we'd probably have to take me out of college. Probably not go back to college if that's what had turned me gay, according to whatever. And so it was just, there were two things that were happening at the same time. One was that I was sort of equating in my mind abuse with my sexuality because that's what I'd been taught my whole life. And here was a person that I trusted who said he'd abused a young child. And I'm thinking, I don't want to do that. That's not at all interesting to me, but if that's going to lead me down that path, then I need to do whatever I can to not go down that path.
I see.
And that's the danger of the single story, right? Is that that's what I've been taught about gay people my whole life.
Yeah.
So when that moment came, I went along with it.
Yeah.
Right. Just thinking like, of course, like I don't want to be that person. And so my mom came to pick me up. She took me to their house, my old house. And Dad takes me into the bedroom and says, if you don't go to this place that I found, you won't speak to your family again. You won't be invited back here. You won't be able to talk to your mother, and God will abandon you.
My goodness.
He has apologized profusely for ever saying those words like over and over again. But I have to say that is what he did say.
Sure.
And when you hear that, when you grow up in a community where everything is about God, faith, your family, the people around you, and you hear that that's going to be taken away from you. Yeah. I mean, it is suicide.
Yeah.
Like, right. Like,
absolutely.
It's like you're just gone.
You're gone. It's like the death of the life that you knew.
And then you're a public, mockery too.
Right.
Of course.
You're a pariah.
It's like the worst.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think at that time you're 18, you're obviously, this is the only story you've ever heard. So you probably feel a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, confusion, but then you're not financially stable, right? And you're reliant on that.
I looked up credits, like how do I get credit, on
Credit
Google
cards?
or whatever. Probably Yahoo at the time. Like, how do I do this? And I was so overwhelmed by just the potential loss of everything that I couldn't wrap my mind around how to do it.
Yeah.
Like and also going to the pastor at my school and her shutting me down, it made me think I can't go to somebody else and say, well, what should I do now? How do I get emancipation? Like, how do I like be my own person?
Sure.
And that, it was just too overwhelming. So I said yes.
And without a support system, right? So your only support system is your church and your parents, right? And that's all you know. You don't have a group, a cohort of friends that are out, that are gay, that would support you through this. So I can imagine that was the only option for you at that time.
It was, but I do want to highlight something that I hope comes into the story because we're on this podcast talking about education.
Yeah.
What had happened in that first semester of college was I started to read books that made me feel less alone, right? So, we were doing like the Western canon, so it was very traditional. But even things like the Iliad and the Odyssey, right? Like they were opening up new ways to think about, the way other people lived in the past and how it wasn't exactly like today. And then I'd already read 1984,
Mm.
which thankfully I had read 1984. There was so much doublespeak coming my way that I couldn't predict.
Oh my God.
And so there was this burgeoning desire to experience difference and to have different stories that was being lit inside of me while I was at Lyon College, which was about 2 hours away from home.
Yeah.
So that little liberal arts school was a lifesaver.
Yeah.
Because that meant that I went into conversion therapy with at least one semester of Western Lit.
Yeah.
Well, and other stories.
And other stories, not just the one, right?
And a curiosity that I'd seen in my professors that was unlike anything I'd encountered growing up.
So, not to spend a lot of time on the conversion center, but what, if you could just give us a summary of kind of what that was like?
Yeah. I mean, it's arts and crafts from hell is what I would call it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, so there were 274 pages of rules, first of all.
Okay.
I know. We were asked to memorize all of them.
Large font?
Some, erratic font is what I would say. Bad clip art, typos everywhere. I was already going to be an English major, so I knew this was not good. But despite that, I was still like, okay, well, messages can come from anywhere. And, I'd studied the New Testament, so that's part of how I was trained to think is this erudition isn't necessarily from God. And I mean, I make jokes about it because it's easier, but it was just brainwashing.
Yeah.
Straight up brainwashing.
Yeah.
So 7 a.m. till 5 p.m., your time is accounted for. You're told exactly what to do. There's a quiet Bible time.
Oh boy.
Where you're told what to read. There's what they called rap sessions, where people would just go in a circle and talk about their problems and just basically talk therapy. But imagine talk therapy, but you're sitting next to someone who's dealing with bestiality on one side,
oh boy,
another person dealing with pedophilia on the other. And the reason why we were all put in one group was because it was under the assumption that all of these were sexual sins.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
That's where that logic gets you.
Yeah.
If you ever heard anyone at the dinner table on a holiday say, well, what's next? Are we going to marry animals?
Right. Oh.
Yeah.
This is where that becomes literal.
Oh.
That idea was what basically spawned okay, well, we'll bring in people dealing with that too.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
It's totally absurd.
How many people were there?
At the time, I think around 30, 25, 30.
And you would all gather into a circle?
We were all on different tracks. So I was part of The Source, which was a 2-week intro program. I'd done months of one-on-one therapy with a conversion therapist, but then it became time in the summer for let's see about dropping out of school. Let's see if the summer thing works. Maybe we'll need to not go back to school. And so that was a 2-week period where we weren't residential yet. We were staying in hotels, but coming back and forth. But there were people who were residents for several months. And the way it worked was basically if you were there for several months, you were there for life almost. I mean,
really?
They became the counselors. I don't think this will shock anyone.
Yeah.
But most of my counselors are now out and married to men or, totally gay.
That was actually going to be one of my questions.
Yeah.
Is, one, research shows that conversion centers aren't effective. I mean, I think
that's one way to put it.
Yes, okay. That's the nicest way to put it. I mean, yeah.
No, you're a real researcher. You have to say it correctly.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what I read. I don't know. Yeah. I could be wrong. No. But then I can only imagine that the people that work there are battling their own, whatever they're there for, right? And especially thinking about the gay community, I would only hope, I hope that someday they can live their truth, right? And
they are now.
And that's fantastic. I mean,
it's complex,
yeah,
my
it's complex,
feelings about
right?
it, but John Smid, who was the head of the camp, he is now married to a man living in Texas and designing furniture.
Oh, wow. And he ran the place.
Yeah. And he's going to, I actually met up with him in Arkansas when I was back home because he was there for a gay car show.
Oh,
Like a
okay.
hot rod car.
Hot
But
rod.
yeah, no.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, but they apparently just all get together and look at their cars.
Oh my goodness.
So my head is spinning.
I know, mine too.
I want to go to a gay car show now.
Yeah.
Right?
I know. Please.
Did the whole place shut?
So Love in Action did shut down many years after I left. I think about 10 years after I left. There was a big controversy with a person who'd been there, Zach, and I forget his last name. There was a documentary about it called This Is What Love in Action Looks Like. I recommend anyone look at it because it's very real. But this kid named Zach, he wrote on, this is going to date me again, he wrote it on MySpace, a post about how his parents had signed him up for this. He was, I think, 15 or 16. And people lost it. It became like a CNN news story. It was on the front page of the New York Times. So I remember watching that. I was in college. I watched that part in college, and then years later, they finally shut it down. So they got in trouble for how they doled out their medication, which they weren't supposed to.
There was a medication component to this whole thing.
Yeah.
Were there psychiatrists?
It was because there were residents. And so they were controlling the medication, and I think they were doing weird stuff with it.
Right.
And which is so disturbing, right?
Were you medicated?
No. I mean, I took Zoloft afterwards because
because
just like how
life.
am I gonna
Right.
And also my social anxiety was so high after that.
I'm sure.
But no, they got in trouble for that. But then I'm gonna get the name wrong because they've changed it like 5 times, but there's a group of lawyers called like Alliance Defending Freedom. You might have heard of them. They have notoriously protected a lot of these places and a lot of like anti-trans stuff lately. And they tried to win the court case, I think. And then I think there was some settlement, and it just got to be too much for Love in Action to continue. And then very shortly after that, Exodus International, which was the big umbrella corporation that was running everything, they shut down. But these places have sprung up everywhere in their wake. I mean, Exodus International, by its very name, they were going all over the place. I mean, I think in my book I mentioned like 51 countries they'd been in.
Wow.
There are more now.
So they still exist?
Well, they don't.
Not they, but conversion centers do.
Big time. We've exported it quite a bit. And especially in Africa, there's a big movement for it.
I think I have heard this.
Yeah, I'm surprised they even attempt conversion in Uganda. I thought they just
kill them. Yeah, well, that's, a lot of those people that were instrumental in the architecture of that bill were evangelicals.
Right.
Who were very much attached to Exodus International. So there's no surprise there. Yeah.
So how long were you there, and how did you leave?
So I was only in the intensive part for 2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah, okay.
Before that, I was doing one-on-one sessions, which are, I would say, equally, if not more harmful, because it depends on those sessions were just like, tell me your secret fantasies, and then they would shame you and then give you a bunch of Bible verses to look at. And, we call those the clobber passages. People just get clobbered over the head with them.
Yeah.
But they're like 8 or 9, you know what they are. It's like Leviticus. Thou shalt not lie with mankind as with womankind. And, right after talking about how we shouldn't eat shrimp because it's an abomination.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, if you look closely at those verses, you can see that people aren't reading very carefully or taking context into account.
Says the English major. Yeah,
right. That's why I became an English major.
Yes, I can see this now. It's all coming together. It really is.
But yeah, it was so I was
2 weeks.
only there for 2 weeks, and then my mom took me out. I can tell you real quick how that happened because it is relevant to my educational experience.
Yeah.
So there was this lie chair exercise, and it's not that odd to do an exercise like this in quote unquote real therapy, right? So you might sit across from an empty chair. It's a little cheesy, and you imagine the person inside of that chair that you need to talk to, and you say the words that you need to say. But in this perverted version, which I would say Love in Action took every sort of normal therapeutic practice and turned it on its head. Like we did genograms, but those family trees had like sin symbols next to people's names. So if someone had, for example, an abortion in your family, you had to put an AB next to their name as a way to kind of explain why you have an H for homosexuality next to yours, because who knows? I guess that's how sin and
they're all related.
Yeah, it all works.
Yeah.
You know, one abortion and you're gay.
Yeah, right.
You can cut that if you need.
No, that's definitely staying in. It's 100% staying in.
So they made me do this lie chair exercise, and they said, okay, you need to yell at your father and tell him how much you hate him, because everything there was based off of stereotypes, right? I had to have a problem with my dad, and I had to be too close to my mother. Okay, well, that stereotype does work, but still.
Yeah, right.
So I sat across in the chair, and at first I tried to play along, and I was just like, okay, well, you know, I'm upset that you did this. And they were like, no, you need to push harder. You need to say how much you hate him. You're hiding your anger. You've never been trying the whole time you're here. And so I finally said, I'm not actually mad at my dad. I'm really sad that I'm here, that we don't agree. I was just like very level, you know, very calm. And that's just how I am most of the time.
Yeah.
And they said, no, that's not you. You're not being real, you know? And in my head, I remember thinking like, okay, so you want me to hate my father, you're a Christian organization, right? Called Love in Action.
Right.
And you want me to activate this hate inside of me towards my father so that it can satisfy some rubric that you have.
Yeah.
Right. And
you have to hate to be cured.
Well, and I'd read 1984 by this point.
Right.
And I thought, okay, well, isn't there one of those things that says something like love is hate or hate is love? And I was thinking, well, that was doublespeak that controlled an entire community of people to hate in a certain way. And I just thought, okay, well, I don't think that's the right way. I just thought this is so completely absurd now. Like, it was my breaking point. Just like, and I know that's a surprise to a lot of people because, you know, I was becoming an educated, you know, young man. I always liked to read, but the environment that I was in just made it almost impossible for me to really think about it, even when I did think about it, you know? And I later learned that's how my mom felt too. You know, she had, she had always gone along with what the men in her life told her she should do. And so she thought she was being a good mother by listening to what my dad said we should do. But she kept thinking to herself, there's something wrong here. I can see my child slipping away. I can see our relationship becoming troubled.
And that was way back.
We were always close.
Yeah.
And she got married at 16. So small town, 100 people, that was her life. But she could see something was wrong. So when I got the nerve to leave that auditorium where I was doing the lie chair exercise, and I said to the people at the front desk, like, I need my stuff, because they take all of your belongings when you come there. I said, I need my phone because it's an emergency. I knew that would work. So they handed me the phone, and I called Mom, and I said, I need you to come get me.
Yeah.
And so she did.
Yeah.
And when she did, John Smith actually came up to the side of the car. This is the guy who's now happily married in Texas. And he goes, well, Garrett's a very bad case. He's very gay, which is true. Married to a man now. Yeah. Incurable case.
Yeah, incurable. Incurable.
Really hurt his stats.
Know, right?
Yeah. He's too gay to cure. That is wild.
And he's like, he needs to stay here for like a year or 2 years. You need to take him out of college, blah, blah, blah. And my mom looks at me. I'm just a nervous wreck, like shaking, like crying. And she goes, I don't know why I never asked this question before, but what were your qualifications?
Oh.
And he goes, well, I was a marriage counselor and I went through AA.
Oh, my goodness. And tell me she sped off at that point.
Yeah, at that point, she was like, we need to go drive and think about this. And so we go, and I'm just, you know, a wreck next to her, because I've never been confronted like that with adults. Like I've always been a good kid. Like,
yeah, right.
And here I was like failing the test on, you know, I'd always made straight A's.
Sure.
Failing the test, right? And she
Terrible
goes,
hater.
You got an F at the conversion center.
I did.
Really bad at hating.
I I'm sorry to laugh.
Actually, I got an incomplete.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, it's not quite
here
enough.
I am, always trying to make the grade.
Yeah.
Try
better next time.
Take it again.
Yeah. I think just let that course go. Yeah.
So, and we were just driving, not knowing where we were going. And she said, do you think that you're going to end up like one of those kids that killed themselves? And I don't know now. Like, I know that I was strategic in that moment. I don't know how close to that I was, but I know that I thought in my head, if I say yes, then I'm going to find out if my mom really loves me.
My goodness.
It was scary. It was really scary to say it. But I said yes. And she goes, we're never going back there again. And we're going to go talk to your father right now and I'll settle it.
Oh, my God.
She's
I have
a hero.
Goosebumps right now.
I know.
Yeah,
I do too.
really.
She's a complete hero.
Yeah.
And I don't think people always understand what it's like to make a decision like that when you've been raised a certain way your whole life.
Yeah.
That decision meant that her life fell apart too.
Yeah. Right.
Right. That everything was up in the air.
Yeah.
And
she was willing to risk it for you because she loved you.
Yeah.
Right.
And that was my lesson. Like I didn't write a word of this book for years because we kind of just swept it under the rug. We were like, we don't want to talk about this. It's awkward. My mom knew I had a boyfriend and stuff, but it was just kind of an awkward experience talking with them. And I let about 10 years pass. I went to Ukraine and taught in the Peace Corps for 3 years. I went all over and just trying to find myself, anything other than Arkansas for a very long time. And I remember the first time I decided to write about it, I said, I'm gonna do this if I can interview my mom and get a story that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Because I felt that the secret to the success of any book that I wrote on this would be her story.
Yeah.
Because it paralleled mine. And I've always felt that, feminism or whatever, I don't even like using isms because people get so upset about whatever ism you say, but like the plight of women, right, has always been inextricably tied to the plight of LGBTQ people.
Yeah.
And I've always felt that, because I've always felt my mom's struggles, and she's felt mine, and we knew that. And so when we saved each other, and we told Dad what's going to happen, it was through that struggle that we did that.
Yeah.
And so when I got her story, like getting married at 16, always following what these men did, never deviating, feeling like she's the best mother.
This was a story you didn't know until
I didn't know at all.
Wow.
And I just thought she did something terrible to me and we'd repaired it or something. And when I got the whole story, of course, you're in your 20s, you're barely thinking outside of yourself in your 20s.
Right.
And so when I finally got that story, everything clicked. I was like, okay, now I've got a story because it's a family story. And it's one that ties our stories together. And also, I interviewed my dad after that. And I actually went a step further and interviewed John Smith and all the counselors who had later come out and said that they were sorry. Because to me, this was a story that wasn't just mine. It was a story that belonged to what I later found out. We didn't know these numbers, was over 700,000 people in the U.S. alone who'd undergone conversion therapy.
700,000 people.
And that's a conservative estimate. Because there's so many conversion therapy moments that happen just behind closed doors in a house with a preacher. So that's a very conservative number, but 700,000. And we had no idea. I felt completely alone. Like when I would talk about it with people, they would be like, I don't even know what that is. That's so wild. But when I'd go back to Arkansas, they knew, right? So I knew that if I was going to write this story, it had to be about this moment in American history, and it had to speak to other moments in American history that we've done this before, right? And we do it all the time, right? We're in 2024. Never in my wildest nightmares would I have thought we would be right back here in terms of how people are talking about LGBTQ people, especially trans kids. It's disgusting. Like throwing out words like groomer. I mean, it's just like, it's a constant trigger.
And it just, I mean, to think we're here in 2024 and it's just there's so much hate still, and
even more than there was in some ways.
And while we won't get too specific, even like from a government perspective, and it's wild. It's very scary. It's a scary time.
It is scary.
I wonder. I mean, I think it's incredibly brave and courageous of you to be able to sit down and write this memoir about your life. I mean, I can only imagine you as a young adult and the impact it had on your entire life, right? Did you hesitate? Was it your idea to write the book, or can you just tell me a little?
I definitely hesitated.
Yeah. Well, I mean, of course, but I mean, what brought you to wanting to write the book?
It's so wild. I mean, if I were back in my dad's worldview, I would say it was preordained or God driven, and I still kind of believe that because it was so odd. Like I was in a creative writing class, a nonfiction class was my first one, and the teacher asked us to go around and say what we're going to write, and I hadn't even planned anything. I didn't know he was going to put us on the spot like right when we got in class. So I said to everyone, my dad's a missionary Baptist preacher. He sent me to conversion therapy. It didn't work. And everyone,
I would have loved to see everybody's face at that point.
Yeah.
Like,
just
excuse
like
me?
what your face looks like.
Excuse me.
Yeah. And they leaned forward and they were like, wait, tell me more details.
Yeah, this is the story.
It went deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
And so I thought, okay, well, this is a safe environment. Let me go ahead and try out a chapter. And the chapter that I tried out was the second chapter of the book, which is all about my father. And I thought, if they don't hate my father, but they see him as a complicated man, and they're frustrated, then I can, maybe this is a book.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't about to do a angels and demons sort of like, these are the wonderful people and these are the terrible people. I mean, no, all human beings are incredibly flawed, right?
Of course.
And so that's what I wanted. And when I got feedback on that, they were like, okay, yeah, you've got to write this book. And I randomly was invited to a dinner. There's this big conference every year for writers called AWP, Associated Writers and Presses, I think. But it's like, tens of thousands of people that are writers go there. So that year it was in Boston and there was a snowstorm actually. And so I got there early and I got invited to a dinner of a friend's, and I didn't know any of the people there. And I sat next to this woman, Maud Newton, and she turned to me and she goes, "What are you writing?" And I said, well, and I gave her my little spiel, and she goes, "Well, that's really interesting because I write about fundamentalism for the New York Times. And my husband couldn't fly in today because there's a snowstorm. Would you like to be my +1 at my agent party?"
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I mean, let's talk about fate.
I know.
Yeah, it was ordained.
I know. It kind of feels like
ordained.
it. And I went to this party and I was like 20 something and it was an open bar. So I got really drunk.
Yeah.
Well. I was like, because I was so nervous. I was like, I've never been in a room. I mean, Madeline Miller, who wrote Cersei and all,
Oh, yeah.
she was in the room and I was so in love with her. I was like, how am I supposed to do this? So my friend Maud, she put me in front of her agent and said, okay, pitch it. Never done a pitch before in my life, never even tried it. So I did my spiel again. Dad's a preacher, blah, 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 didn't work. And she goes, well, send me some pages. So I go back to my hostel at the time and I fix I was being real cheap at the time. And I fixed a pot of coffee, sobered up, took a shower and Googled what is a query letter? How do I send samples to an agent?
Yeah.
How do I do this? And I just learned that night and sent it. And she signed me. She was like, I want to do all your projects, as long as you want to do them.
Wow.
So wild. It was so wild.
What a story.
Right?
This is incredible.
I know.
There's one gap in it. So what happened with your dad?
Yeah.
I know. Intentional gap. No.
Yeah.
So I would say what is happening with my dad is that his heart has been changing a lot over the years. It's much more incremental than my mother. We actually found a sort of side door into talking about things through poetry, of all things. My dad loves to write poetry. He's actually pretty good at it. And I gave him Walt Whitman, Leaves of Grass, which Walt Whitman is our pansexual hero these days. If you look, he loves everyone. And Dad, And Dad was like, well, he's a weird dude, but his words are beautiful and I love him. And I was like, okay. So then we would talk a little bit about it. And I think I was just kind of like brainwashing him through my own literature.
Conversion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all seriousness, and I'm not going to say this in a way where I can be quoted.
Sure.
But I do think that literature, when done right, has the power to transform, right?
Absolutely.
And it's an empathy machine in many ways. I do believe that. I know people like sort of make fun of that these days, but it's actually 100% true. I know that I'm alive because of literature.
Yeah.
So I think that sort of opened up something for us. You know, my mom was willing to read The Picture of Dorian Gray when I was reading it in my Western Lit class. And I said, hey, do you want to read this alongside me? And so we talked about it. And, you know, that book is really great if you're sort of no longer in the closet, but your parents aren't quite on board.
Yeah.
Because it's very sly about how it deals with things, and you can talk around it a little bit, and you can still talk about morality in a way that makes sense. And sort of say like, well, I'm not one of those, you know, vanity gays or whatever. It's like, that's kind of how it started. Now I am, of course.
Right.
JK.
Yeah. But not.
Yeah, but not. Everyone's vain. That's what you find out later.
That's
But yeah, I mean, I think that's what healed so much of our relationship. And we've had fights over the years, but you know, he loves me, I love him. We've met as far as we can. And now that he's in his 70s, I'm just grateful for every day that we have and every day that we can, you know, love each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I imagine it's been a journey for your dad as well, right?
Oh, it has. And, he has his own story, and I don't share it very often because it's very personal for him. But his father, my grandfather, was a monster. Yeah. And he was the youngest child and got all of it. So, you know, he never hit me once, which I think is just like a phenomenal thing, given
especially
how,
if you grow up in that environment.
That cycle, right? And one time, and I wrote about it in the book, one time he raised his hand because I had smarted off, and it was like during that time when he found out what I was, you know, and he immediately started to cry. Like his hand was still up, and he started to cry, and that haunted me forever because I thought, you know, people can change.
Yeah.
Like that's the change that can happen, right? Not the turning gay to straight, but you can turn, you know, a monstrous childhood into something better.
Yeah.
I mean, and talk about a one-story guy.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
he got one story.
He got one story. Yeah.
Yeah.
So can we talk about the new book?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So the new book, All the World Beside. This is a novel. So tell us a little bit about the book and what inspired you.
So, you know, I wanted to make the switch temporarily, at least, from memoir.
Yes. Everything's out there now.
When the Daily Mail shows up at your parents' doorstep, it's like, okay, you know.
Boy. Yeah.
So I was like, let's calm things down and do something different. And I'd always loved fiction, you know, that the books I mentioned, right? That's part of how I grew up and how I learned to live. So I thought about, okay, what project am I going to do next? Like, how do you follow up that? And my husband at the time just said, hey, what if you wrote about queer Puritans?
Ooh. Okay.
And I said,
subject maybe not touched before?
No.
Yeah, this is unique.
Maybe rightly so.
Right. But I'm interested.
Yeah.
Continue.
So he goes, wouldn't that be a challenge? And I said, that's completely ridiculous. And so for like a couple of weeks, I didn't do anything. But then I thought, okay, well, I want to kind of like show him that I could, you know, and do a little reading. And so I wrote like a little bit of what eventually became my main character, Nathaniel Whitfield, who was a preacher in the 18th century who falls in love with another man in his town. And that sort of, I hadn't done any research yet to see if that was even possible. You know, what did that look like? How did people talk about it? What words would have been used to describe this experience at the time? And then I'd also come across in my dad's office a bunch of sermons, like collected volumes of Jonathan Edwards' sermons, which I don't know if you've ever read Jonathan Edwards. He's fabulous, although much of his theology would be odious to you today. He's a fabulous writer. And the one that you would know, his sermon was Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God, which is sometimes taught in high school. It's like the most memorable part is that he compares the Christian soul to a spider that's dangling over an open flame, and like its legs are curling under. It's very like intense, and it's sort of one of the first fire and brimstone sermons. Even though Jonathan Edwards was so much more than that, he got famous for that. And so I started to read some of those and talk with my dad about Jonathan Edwards because I was so fascinated. Okay, here's this missionary Baptist preacher looking at Congregationalist, thinking in the 18th century in New England. Like, do you see that you're so far from that? Like all of your beliefs aren't rooted in anything aside from just like personal preferences. And I mean, that's my opinion of the Baptist, but
right.
And yet here was a man who was incredibly principled on everything, even when I thought he was wrong, right? He had his reasons and they were very clear. Right. His sermons sermons at the time, everyone went to like Yale or Harvard at the time if you wanted to be a minister. And so their sermons are just, spotless logic, even if it's messed up logic. Like it's like beautiful logic. So I fell in love with that language and I thought, okay, what a challenge. Could I create queer characters in the past that didn't have the words to say what they were?
Wow.
And could I do it in a way where the reader would know what I was doing, but the characters would talk around?
Yeah.
A lot of dramatic irony, right? And so it just became a fascination for me, like, can I do it? And then I added more challenges, like, could I have more of this biological family be queer? Could all of them be? And could they start to realize this about themselves at different points in the narrative?
Just taking you back to that chart.
I went back to the chart. Yeah. It's all in there somewhere. I don't know where, like it's like a blender. But those are always fascinating questions for me. And the book really allowed me to write, I think, with more pleasure because I was able to find beautiful moments between these characters as they were trying to survive. And, there are happy endings for some of them.
Yes, right.
And as happy as it could be at the time.
Sure.
But I did probably it took me 7 years to finish it, which, I hope the next one does not take that long. Because I have about a 500, source bibliography that is going to go live on my website soon.
Oh my God.
Because I really wanted to get it right. Yeah. And one of the moments that really spoke to me or opened up the possibility for the book was this letter from a guy named, I'm going to get it wrong, Virgil Maxey, which is just such a great name anyway.
Great name.
And he was writing to his friend William Blanding. This was around 1800. So a little bit later than the period I was writing in, but still close enough for me to kind of approximate. And he says to William, and I won't quote everything because it is actually filthy.
Okay.
I don't know what rating this podcast has, but
it's a good question.
We'll be careful.
Yeah.
So
let's do PG-13.
I'll do the PG-13 version, and I'll suggest what the word is.
Okay.
Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So I found this. I found this letter that said, "I want to lie in bed with you all night," which is normal. Men would often lie in bed together, just because of convenience, right? So nothing to see there. And I want to feel your doodle. I looked that up, and it was what you think it is.
Yeah.
And then he said, but sometimes I get it confused with the bedpost.
Oh.
And I thought a doodle that can be confused with the bedpost is hardly in a state of repose. Yep.
I think I'm still stuck on use the word doodle back in those days.
I know.
I mean, that seems like such a newer kind of word.
And then, this isn't even, y'all are going to lose it. Okay, so the guy signs off with your, and then there's a C word, humble. It's that C word. The one no one wants to say.
Yes.
And I was like, what? how in the world? I mean, of course, we all know like Shakespeare was using that word in jokes earlier than that.
Yeah. I think we could say the word.
Well, just like, I'll say it through Shakespeare, right? He would often use country as a way to sort of do that.
That's right.
Yeah. And so and so I looked that up too to make sure that there wasn't, and then there was a gloss that one historian, I think his name was Richard Godbeer. It's a great name. There's a lot of great names.
That is a really great name.
Yeah.
And he said, he quoted that letter, and right after that, he goes, "One cannot help but wonder." So like this is moving on to the next paragraph. Yeah. So like that stuck in my mind forever. Like, one cannot help but wonder. Okay, well, let me wonder for 7 years and think about it.
Yeah.
Because these are the same historians, most of them straight, right? Who, when they read a letter like that between men and women, would never be like, one cannot help but wonder. They'd be like, well, they definitely hooked up.
Yeah. This definitely happened.
That definitely happened.
Yep.
So the same rules weren't applied,
right,
when we're making these inferences.
Wow.
And then to make matters even more complex and fun, I found that letter cited again in an article for a Lesbian and Gay magazine, I believe, by none other than Larry Kramer, who is like one of our biggest like LGBTQ activists last century.
Yes.
And he was like, well, the straights are whitewashing our history. And like he was known for going on very long rants, which I don't always agree with his rants, but I love them.
Yeah.
And
fun.
And in this one, I was like, okay, yeah, he's right, but he's going a little far. He's like, Abraham Lincoln's definitely gay. Like, like, whatever. And then I started thinking like, wow, there's really something to teach here, because we can go into that, but then I can also have an author's note that sort of explores this whole history. And my gloss on it was, sure, no one's going to be satisfied. There'll still be questions, right?
Yeah.
And like, because that's actually
can't help but wonder.
Yeah, one cannot help but wonder.
Yeah.
And like, I think that's okay. Like, I don't think that I should be pinning my sense of identity or heritage on like specific famous people and trying to play like Scooby-Doo with them. Like, unmask them. They're actually gay.
Yeah.
Like, because it's historically that's impossible, because we don't know what they thought of themselves at the time. And like, we're using contemporary terms and pasting it onto people in the past when like most likely he was just bisexual and but we'll never know.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And I think that when we try to prove to people like, oh, we were always here, we deserve to be here, that's why. Like, good, some people should do that work, but that's not my work.
Yeah.
My work is like, this is the reality now, because I've dealt with a lot of queer kids. I've been teaching for a long time. It's a bit self-selective. They come to me and we just chat forever. And sometimes I don't understand where they're coming from, right? Things have changed since I was growing up. But the answer is not to go, okay, well, now let me make sure that there were non-binary people in the past so that I can justify your existence and make you feel good. Yeah. No, like, this is a kid who needs help now, and they feel strongly about this. And yes, there may be some pitfalls in terms of like how that stuff gets labeled or how identity is used in capitalist society. But like, I'm going to try to support them and meet them where they are right now.
Yeah.
And I think that if we define our queer existence on antecedents only and say like, we're justified because people were exactly like us at another time, well, that's a losing battle, because the right will find a way to make that move.
Oh my gosh. I think that the premise of this book is fascinating.
Thank you.
I mean, it was funny when you first introduced it, right? The concept
queer
of it.
Puritans.
Queer Puritans. But I can't wait to read it.
Thank you.
I'm really excited about this. This is fantastic. So I just want to remind all of our listeners, Garrett's new book is called All the World Beside, and it comes out March 26th. And so we all need to run out and buy that. And also,
you
if you have
buy advances on Amazon or something.
And also, we have to recommend to read Boy Erased.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, the story is incredible.
Thank you.
And the movie.
Yeah, wild. I mean,
Were you? It
was
what was that
so
like?
crazy. My mom was on set. My husband and I were extras. My mom was an extra at one point.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's really fun. I mean, my story. You want to hear my crazy story real quick?
Yeah,
Um,
of course.
So I was at the premiere of Boy Erased at Telluride,
Mhm.
and that was really fun. I love that area,
Mhm.
and it was really the first time I'd seen it when it was fully edited, because they kind of wanted me to wait to see this new version.
Sure.
And Nicole Kidman had not seen it yet either, and she was sitting right behind me, and I was just a nervous wreck. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, it was a huge crowd. I was so nervous. I'd never experienced anything like that before.
Yeah.
And she could tell that I was just like a wreck, right?
Mhm.
And so halfway through the film, when I'm just like almost shaking and worried, Nicole Kidman gives me a back massage.
Oh, okay.
Oh my God.
All right.
So that's what you wanted. Right?
So I actually told our producer and Biff earlier. I said I really want to ask about Nicole
You can
Kidman,
ask
but
all about Nicole. I love her.
Yes.
No, I think like, first of all, it warmed my gay little heart to
Yeah.
meet Nicole, because like I've grown up loving her, and
Yeah.
she's fabulous. But then to get a back massage by Nicole Kidman, I mean,
Yep.
that is a two truths and a lie.
That is, yeah.
That is a good one.
That's a great
But
one.
I
That's a
can
great
carry that to my grave.
That's a great. I'm gonna actually use that and say I met someone
Yeah,
who
exactly.
got a back massage
That's
by
good.
Nicole
They'll
Kidman.
still think that's fake.
Yeah, I know. I'm using that. Thank you for that content.
She's the sweetest, though. She
Oh.
really is really sweet.
Well, you should be so proud and just incredible work. And thank you for
Oh.
sharing your story with us. And I only hope the best for you and your success in writing the next book.
Thank you.
We'll have to look
Can
out for.
Yeah.
I have one more question
Of
I wanted
course.
to ask you.
I love it.
I mean, I'm just wondering, this is sort of a significant departure, but whether you have something that you would like to say to teachers of younger children.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is an incredible question.
That is an incredible question. I feel like I might not live up to it, but I'm going to try. I mean, I said it a little bit today in one of my sessions, because I spoke to a young woman who came up to me and she said, well, you know, in Florida, there's Bill of Parental Rights, you've heard about this,
Mhm.
right? Is saying that if a kid comes up to me and expresses gender confusion or sexuality questions, that I'm supposed to say nothing. And she said, but I don't do that. And she talked about the risk that she was taking when she directs them to sources that would be helpful for them,
Mhm.
which is what a teacher should do, right?
Absolutely.
And so I was talking about this in my talk today, and I mentioned her because it was so touching that she wanted to tell me that, because it gave me hope. It was like, okay, well, you know, wherever you are, there's going to be some attack, right? It seems like every state has some attack on freedom of expression right now,
Mhm.
especially when it comes to teachers.
Mhm.
But here are some people who are willing to take the risk and still do, you know, God's work,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And I'm not asking people to break rules or like, you know, do whatever, but I think that we should stick together, and we should understand that what's happening to one of us is happening to all of us.
Yeah.
And we should find ways to be very smart about how we speak to our kids that we're teaching. And I think that, when there's an unjust rule or an unjust law, I don't know if we should follow it.
Yeah.
And I don't say that lightly, because people need their jobs and they have families, and it's incredibly hard.
Mhm.
But I also know that every time I've decided to take a risk that could upend my whole life for the sake of something better than myself, that it has always resulted in something better.
Mhm.
And I personally believe that that's God driven. And I think, you know, wherever you are on that spectrum of things, I think we all believe in goodness.
Mhm.
And this is a trial where what we do really, really matters, and what we say really, really matters. And if we aren't able to go around some of these things, I think we can find other ways, right? Op-eds, ways of speaking out about it in different ways, that I think can change the world. And I do believe that stories change the world. I didn't believe that before I published a book, I don't think.
Yeah.
And now I really believe it. And I think I've heard so many people today at this conference who are like, you know what, I'm going to tell more of my story. I feel like doing that. And it has a chain reaction.
Yeah.
And I think that just keeping that in mind whenever we're talking to these kids, you know, we can say things to them like, well, I'm not allowed to say X, Y, or Z, but you know where to look, you know, and I think there's just like, there are ways to do it. And there are ways to say to them without saying directly anything that violates some of these principles. You know, I am here for you and I understand your struggle and things like that. So
yeah, what makes it so hard is that the prohibition against varying the one story.
I know.
You know,
right.
I mean,
there's only one story now.
Because it really does seem like our first responsibility is to have a multiplicity of stories, so that kids can see that kind of diversity. And
I will say we should be cognizant of when the left doesn't do that. There are many moments when the left doesn't do that, and it upsets me a lot. Where, you know, there's an oversimplification or the complexity. You know, like I'll never go out and say, oh, every kid should read every book. They should have, you know, we should just stock our libraries with like all sorts of adult material. Like, no, like, but there are some people will say it's never okay to like exclude a book in a library like that. I think when we do that kind of overgeneralization, we harm ourselves, because then the right just latches on to that.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I, you know, I'm very careful about talking about right and left when I go different places. So I don't mean to imply that if you're on the right, you are definitely agreeing with this, because I've met many people who are like, I'm so tired of my party acting this way, but I still have these values, and, you know, they're like old school conservatives, which I can respect. I never thought I could say that.
Yeah.
Growing up where I grew up.
You're really
sure. It's a very different time now. I'm like, thank you. Y'all are great.
Yeah.
Fiscal conservative, love you.
Yeah, that's right. Oh gosh. Well, it is certainly a tricky time. That's for sure.
Very tricky.
But I appreciate what you shared there, and your work is inspirational, and just in sharing that idea with teachers, and that effect, you know, of, you know, you sharing your story and allowing people to feel like it's okay for them to share a little bit more of theirs is a lovely place to be. And so thank you for everything that you've shared with us today, and all of the laughs. I really enjoyed this.
What a delight to be with you.
I know y'all are fun.
If you're enjoying this conversation as much as we are, following the show on your streaming service really helps more people discover the podcast. Thanks so much, and I'm looking forward to our next conversation. This podcast is produced by AMS, the American Montessori Society. However, the views that are expressed belong to us and to those of our guests. They do not represent those of the American Montessori Society.